Thank you, and very good afternoon to all of you. So first of all, let me add my welcome to the welcome of Professor Basu and Mr. Ranade. So we are really happy to have all of you as part of the IIM Indore family. And I'm sure you are setting off on a very interesting journey at this point of time. I'm really delighted that you had such a good start to the program today. I think Ajit gave you an excellent talk. I mean, he managed to make the whole question of economic growth appear so simple that I think one rarely gets the opportunity to hear someone who can formulate the whole economic challenge in such simple terms. So I think you were all quite fortunate, and actually we were all together quite fortunate to listen to him. And I'm sure this sets a good context for all of you in the rest of the program. I think there are a few points in Ajit's talk which I would like to reiterate before I go on to tell you something about the program and our expectations from you. And that is, I think that today India is a land of huge opportunities. Many of you were asking concerned questions about what will be the impact of different external factors in the growth and so on. The fact is, I think that all of us are basically laying a bet on India's growth, and if India grows, it's synonymous with that is going to be the fact that there are going to be huge opportunities across the economy. The other way is also true. Unless we galvanize and drive the economy, we are not going to see the kind of growth and development we want to happen. So I'm just hoping that all of you will not take a very short-term and restricted view of your stay at our campus here, but that you will look at this as a stepping stone to taking on some of those challenging tasks. Simple thing that, for example, Ajit mentioned was productivity. Indian companies, except some of the best ones, are still at much lower productivity levels than their competitors elsewhere. And that's one of the reasons Indian companies are not very good at exports, because essentially they're not very competitive. While part of the competitiveness deficit could be because of policy, part of it is also because of bad practices within the companies themselves. So if you were to just look at the managerial challenge in Indian industry today, it's huge. But interestingly, and this is where I would like you folks to think about it carefully, the biggest challenges from a managerial point of view are usually not in the companies where you all covet jobs. So if I look at the top-end companies where already companies are doing extremely well, the big challenges are probably not there. The challenges are really in mid-sized companies. The challenges are in a number of family-owned companies. The challenges are in sectors where historically MBA graduates have not gone. For example, one of the biggest bottlenecks in India today is in the coal sector. The absence of enough coal being mined and transported is resulting in shortages across the economy, including in power plants, fertilizer plants, steel plants, wherever. So the areas in which management can have the biggest impact are unfortunately the areas where most of you are not willing to go. So if you were to look at a kind of lifetime challenge where you could really take it up and make a difference, those challenges exist in those sectors. And you go back in history, you will find that some of the people who took on those challenges, they have had some of the biggest impact in the Indian economy. Let me give you just one example. You probably know that in the 1950s and 60s, India was a chronically milk deficient country. And the absence of milk was serious because it also meant that there was a deficiency in protein. Milk is one of the biggest source of protein for most Indians. But today we are the largest milk producer in the world. So if you just look at that transition over the last 30 or 40 years, I suppose it's probably not correct to attribute it all to one individual, but certainly one individual played a major role in making that happen, and that was Dr. Varghese Kurian, who founded the entire Amul model, set up the NDDB, and set up the whole cooperative milk network across the country. So this is one guy, and if you go back and read anything about him, the story of his life or even some autobiographical accounts that he has written, when he started off, there was very little on the ground back in the 1950s. And they had to start right from designing milk pasteurization plant, setting up milk collection infrastructure, putting in place the whole cooperative structure. That was, 50 years of the life of Dr. Kurian after that was devoted to this whole thing. But today, all over the world, he is known for that contribution which he made. And interestingly, again, if you go back and see Dr. Kurian's life, you will see he had much easier options at that time. In fact, when he first went to Anand, when he first got hired, he really wondered where he had arrived. There was absolutely nothing there. I remember reading some account of his life earlier. So I just want to repeat what I said, that if you really, it depends of course how you want to measure your life. And there's at one level a philosophical question, but at one level it's a very real question. If you want to measure your life by how much money you earn, that could be one metric, of course. That's a relatively simple metric. You guys know how to pursue that. I don't need to give you too much advice on that. But if you want to choose an alternate metric, and if you want to see your impact or your success in terms of what change you have created, then you have to go into the most challenging areas, because that's where the maximum impact will be possible and visible over time. So I would seriously request you to think over this. I'm sure during the course of your curriculum here, you will get many opportunities to identify sectors in which significant challenges exist. And in India, we have challenges in several sectors. So you actually have a lot of choice. It could be things that Ajit was talking about, including related to health, sanitation, malnutrition. You could take practically any one of these issues. And I'm hoping that at least a few of you, I'm quite realistic. I understand that not all of you are likely to go down that track. But I hope at least a few of you will take on those challenges and try to pursue them in your life. And that will, I think, really make a big difference, not only to you as individuals, but to the country as a whole. So just think about that. Keep that in your mind while you're going through your coursework. Okay, let me come to more specific things. First of all, we are, of course, very delighted that all of you have decided to join our program. The PGP program that we offer here in Mumbai is exactly the same program in terms of curriculum and content as the program we offer in the Indore campus. The faculty who are teaching it are largely the same. We make a determined effort to make sure that the core courses are taught by our core faculty in IIM Indore. So the faculty travel here, teach you, and then will go back. As many electives as possible also, we try to make sure that these are taught by faculty from the institute itself. So you will be getting, at least in terms of curriculum in the classroom, something that's almost identical to what the students on the Indore campus get. So I just want to first reassure you that in terms of curriculum, in terms of classroom content, there's absolutely no compromise we are making when we teach you all here in Mumbai. Of course, because of the fact that faculty are traveling from Indore and back, there could be some differences in the way classes are scheduled. But we try to make sure that we don't bunch too many classes together, because clearly we understand that if you want to assimilate any course material, it has to be taught over a reasonable period of time. However, it is true that some of the classes may be a bit more concentrated than they would be in Indore. But all that means is that you have to perhaps put in a little more effort to make sure that you can assimilate that in that slightly shorter period of time. We understand that one component which you miss out here is a campus interaction. That's unfortunate, but that's also partly to do with Mumbai. It's almost impossible to get any reasonably priced real estate or some kind of accommodation facility here. We keep looking, investigating that. So unfortunately, at this point of time, the way it operates, you're not going to have the benefit of that campus life. But I think there are other ways in which you could possibly compensate for that. One is, of course, the fact that you can still meet, do your group work and all that together. The other one is, of course, can you take advantage of being located here in Mumbai? I mean, that's an advantage which certainly our students in Indore don't have. Indore is a pretty well-developed city. It's the commercial capital of Madhya Pradesh, but it's certainly not Mumbai. And therefore, I think one of the things I would really like to see in a much greater degree is how can all of you take advantage of the Mumbai location to not only interact and participate outside the classroom, but also how can you bring more speakers, more seminars and things like that into the classroom. I think this is an area where I would urge all of you to give a lot of careful thought. I know you are not a very large group, but both the batches together, you're about at least 120 people here, so you have some mass to be able to do that. And when I met the earlier batch a few months ago, I had mentioned this to them as well. We are perfectly happy to support any kind of activity like that which you want to organize here. But my only request to you was make sure that anything you organize, it should be befitting the image and brand of an institute like an IIM. So it cannot be something that is not getting the best speakers or not of a very high quality. Those kind of activities should be avoided to the extent possible. Instead, let's organize really good events. We are happy to support you in any way. If you want to identify some speakers, if you want to organize infrastructure, all of that we are happy to support. But try to make your academic stay in the Mumbai Center of IIM Indore as useful and as productive as possible. And we are willing to support it in all these ways. Let me also add a few caveats regarding some expectations we have from you. One expectation we have, I'm sure all of you know this, but I must state it anyway, is that you will be well prepared for all the classes. This is a little bit different from your education at the undergraduate level, where typically in engineering education in India, it's fairly one-sided. Somebody comes, talks something, writes on the board, shows some PPT and goes away. But management education ideally is much more interactive. We often expect you to come prepared with a case study or some other preparation before you come to the class. So first thing, please be absolutely committed to making that preparation before you come, because that's the only way you will get a lot of value out of the class. You can probably come and be passive, but then you will not learn much. So it's important that you not only come prepared, but then actively participate. I was very happy to see so many of you participating in the discussion with Ajit. I'm sure if he had stayed here for a little longer, many more of you would have been quite happy to ask him questions and so on. That's a good sign. Don't lose that. Please retain that and continue to display that kind of enthusiasm in the classroom as well. That's extremely important if you're going to get maximum value out of a program like this. The second thing I would emphasize, again, maybe a strange thing to talk about in a postgraduate program, but I must do it anyway. Please maintain discipline at all times. We are not overseeing you, and here, of course, because we don't have a hostel and a campus, there's no direct oversight of your behavior per se. But please remember that once you are a student of our institute, you have certain responsibilities, and we expect you to stand up to those responsibilities. And I must also tell you that we are very supportive when you guys are good, but we are also quite tough if people break the rules. So we will not hesitate to take disciplinary action against anybody who does anything which is either harmful to other people or to the institute. So please, I'm sure Professor Basu will brief you, but please make sure that you understand the rules well, and if you have any doubts, please consult him and make sure that you are following all the rules completely and comprehensively. A few things in particular I would like to emphasize. One of them is, as you all know, over the last couple of years, one of the big emphasis in areas in India and one of the biggest shames of India actually has been sexual harassment that we have seen. And we have cases today almost every day in the newspaper, each one more horrific than the previous one. So I want to just tell you that there is absolutely zero tolerance for any kind of gender harassment, either way. Some people tell me it's not only men harassing women, sometimes women harass men as well. Whichever way it is, or even men harassing each other or women harassing each other, whatever, whichever form, please make sure that you don't get into anything which could be construed as that. So be very careful, because remember, it can also be sometimes you might be joking, but somebody else may perceive it as harassment. So be very careful, be sensitive to that. And here I just want to emphasize that there is absolutely zero tolerance. If we find any of you indulging in any behavior which can be deemed as harassment, we will not hesitate to expel you from the program. So please don't come and plead for mercy at that point of time, say my career is at stake. Please be warned right now that that kind of behavior is simply unacceptable. And if we find any such behavior, we will take strict action. I did mention the rules earlier, but this is primarily an academic institute, so just remember that anything which could be considered as academic dishonesty, including copying, plagiarism, or whatever it is, I mean, proxy attendance, anything like this is just, again, completely unacceptable. So please make sure that you're not even considering these as options. Once again, if you're not sure what plagiarism is, please find out. I think Dr. Akhtar Parvez is here. He can spend some time with you. You have a session on that? Yeah, he's going to spend some time telling you what plagiarism is, how you can avoid it. So please make sure that you are well informed about all of these things. Because as you all know, not knowing or not being aware of something is absolutely no excuse for being found guilty of any of these things. So that's again another request I want to make to you. So I think at least the threat part of it is hopefully over now. So we can move back to the more positive territory. So I think you're all on the verge of a very interesting phase in your life. Clearly, it's a slightly more optimistic time than it was some months ago. I'm not sure whether the present government will be able to do all the things that it says, but nonetheless, certainly it's a time of much greater optimism than we saw about, say, 6 months back. And that's good for all of you because, as you know, a lot of investment decisions which affect employment and growth and so on depend on sentiment. So positive sentiment is probably the first important step for some good things to happen. So you heard Dr. Ranade, he talked about how there's a little more optimism and a little more enthusiasm today, which is good because that's what will help people take all those huge piles of cash they have and convert them into investment. So I think in terms of timing, I think you're at the right time. I think the next few years will see a lot of positive developments in the economy. But there will continue to be volatility, so you need to be flexible, you need to be adaptable, you need to make sure that your skills are sharp. And more than anything else, I would strongly urge you that just remember that this is just the starting point. Getting into a program like this, I mean, sometimes people feel, oh, now after all this effort I've got here, now let me just relax. But I think that's probably the wrong thing to do right now. Because in many ways, the challenge is just starting. You have a whole lot of enthusiastic and competent colleagues. You have a world out there with a lot of very competent people as well. So the challenge of really making a career and a mark for yourself is just starting. And I would like to just reiterate the point I made earlier. Don't settle for less ambitious goals, and don't please put your goals only in terms of money. You'll be surprised that if you're successful in other dimensions, how money usually follows. But you just pursue only money, that can come often with a lot of other headaches. So I would strongly urge all of you that please look out for the challenges, look at making a name for yourself, and look at making a place for yourself in the Indian economy. And India has just so many of those challenges which are worth taking on. So I really hope some of you will do that. Our experience with the Mumbai campus has been good. Faculty have been telling me that students in Mumbai are usually well prepared, they study hard. So I hope you're going to maintain that reputation. We would certainly like to continue to hear such things about students here in Mumbai. And we would certainly not like to hear any complaints about your group or batch and so on. So I think that's broadly what I wanted to share with you this afternoon. Just a few requests, a few things you need to keep in mind. But overall, I would like to wish you an excellent stay with us. We hope you have a very productive program here. And best wishes not only for the next 2 years, during which I'm sure I will have opportunities to interact with you, but also for your future after that. Thank you.